and your sun is always gone. Can you see, little child, that I'm always here for you? You shall know that I died, so you might feel no more blue, and then my love will see through. I see the peace that does inside you, wondering if I really care. But I assure you I am with you, and that I'll be always there. Can you see, little child, I won't ever let you down. You shall know that I died, so that you won't have to drown, so that your pain will be gone. And if you are the only person that is still alive in this world, I would give all for you. Bless you richly straight from my heart. Shall I care right from the start? This place to you is not forever, and a better world soon to come. Full of my riches and my love, and no pain and grief will be gone. You will see, little child, think the world cannot express. You will feel that I live, and forever you will be blessed, and your heart will find its rest.
Blessed be those who hate and despise us. God
say what you want, and I shall shut my mouth. Spread your message on the earth, and I shall shut my mouth. You talk of freedom of speech and life, and I shall shut my mouth. You talk about tolerance for others, and I shall shut my mouth. I am human born, you live and I want your face. I'm gonna know, and they're thinking you runs wide. You have been just on the time, and I shall shut my mouth. You may only live one life, and I shall shut my mouth. Think I'm bending off love and soul, and I shall shut my mouth. Spending so much in it for space, and I shall shut my mouth. Oh yeah, living guy, don't take things on enough. Stop, but think I leave. You don't really know, you're in him.
That's right, you know the time. It is time for the good show, and that is Ask Reformed Christian Apologist, live with you now on this Friday. Yeah, that's right, we're coming in, and we're coming at you loud and hard with a nice tune and music to go with it. I'm going to push them a little bit low. I figured we'd go with a different pace and have a longer extent of a bit of a music instead of what we're normally used to doing. And just use this to also explain what's going on and how you, the audience, can participate. In fact, we're going to get ready and get ourselves in the live stream portion on the Discord server in case some of y'all want to tune in and hop on. So, yeah. Hold up. I'm trying to respond to somebody here. So, there we go. Now let's explain for some of y'all that are new here, because I see there's some new faces that have occasionally popped in and out. Let's get to how we are gonna be doing this. So here's the ways you can ask your questions here. So send in your questions via 3 ways. Number 1, you can send your question to the live chat and we will answer it live from there when we get to y'all. The next one is to join the live stream via the Discord. And only those who have the Livestream Warriors role will be able to enter. And y'all have plenty of opportunities for that, but we will be going on for 2 hours with this stream. So y'all will get y'all's chance to come in if y'all want, and if y'all have a Discord server, we'll make sure that that can happen and we work it. Next one is ask question via our show questions only section on Discord. So yeah. So if you go there, there'll be a section that says show questions only. Type it in. Put in your question, and we'll get to it. We got a couple that are in there right now, so it'll give us some time to work with it and deal with what we got to deal with. So, I want to thank all of y'all for tuning in so far to this show. Oh, hold up. Let me do that again. Boom. Okay. Now, that was a little bit more of a fade out. All right. So, right now it says on our thing, we got about 2 people watching at the moment. Who knows? That number could go up. No. So, yeah. And I see we definitely have our usual set of suspects online at the moment. And who knows, more may be joining up with us. I just will inform them. Just in case they may have not gotten the memo, if you're busy or anything like that. I don't know. But either way, if you want to get on, easy way to do it. Just gotta let me know. And just say you want it. But if you're a stranger and we don't know you, we're definitely gonna have things all, alright, okay, but that being said and done, let's go ahead and get into it. So let's see here. Right now all we have is this one guy, literally that's his name, this one guy who's in the live chat. So the conversation he was asking about the being a 5-point Calvinist. And I said, so I just told him, it's referring to 5-point Calvinism, Reformed theology. To which he responds, oh, so just changing the teaching. Here's another question. What's theology? The study of religion, so you're trying to change the Calvinist. No, theology is not the study of religion. In fact, let's go to what the definition of theology is. If we go to Merriam-Webster, we go to that dictionary for what is the definition of theology, because theo and ology are essentially saying the study of a religious faith, practice, and experience, the study of God and God's relation to the world. So we have ology, meaning study, and then theo, which comes from the word that is usually translated like in the Greek, theos, God. So the study of God. So theology is the study of God, not of religion, but of God. So theology, the study of God. Hence, when you read systematic theology books, like the 2 that I have on my shelves, they are mostly dealing with God and how God operates, who is God, and how we are in this relationship with God. So that is theology, is the study of God. All right. So, thank you for that. All right. Now, if y'all have any more questions y'all would like to ask or anything, feel free, again, to come on in or participate. So, let's see here. Marshall Mathers sends in the question of Hebrews chapter 5, verse 7 through 9. We're already going to have to pull up the Bible software, aren't we? All right. So, his question is concerning the passage. During the days of Jesus' life on earth, he offered up prayers and petitions with loud cries and tears to the one who could save him from death, and he was heard because of his reverent submission. Jesus came down to earth with the purpose of laying down his life for us, yet he was praying and crying to the Father to be saved. Does this sound okay? Also, it says his prayers were heard. Yes, that sounds okay. This is very consistent with what biblical Christianity teaches about, Christ being crucified and how he would rise from the grave. And his prayers were heard. Doesn't mean that they were necessarily answered. So, keep that in mind. Alright, so, thank you for the question there, Marshall. Let's see here. Sorry about that, folks. Bit of a roughness in the throat tonight. I don't know what's going on. I may need to pop up a little lozenge real quick. You know what? I may as well go do that. But in the meantime, let's see. What does Jesus say in John 5? By the way, I guess while I do that, if y'all got any questions in the live chat, feel free to send in your questions, and we will do our best to respond, especially given the time that I'm going to be heading out to get something from the deal. Give myself a throat lozenge, because we all need those, don't we? Oh, and I left the light on, too. Hopefully this all helps me out. Ramen noodles with drink, of course, the broth. Maybe that'll hopefully help fix the issues. But I don't know. I've been having a bit of a rough throat for about since yesterday. So I don't know what's going on there. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, we got a few people. Okay. Alright, before we get to theistic logos question, let's go ahead and just deal with the live chat. This one guy says, what's the 5 points of Calvinism? I have no idea what a Calvinist is. Okay. So, I'm definitely going to have to take this one out for me to actually respond to it. Okay, so, Calvinism, with the 5 points, are essentially this. You have total depravity, unconditional election, irresistible or limited atonement, irresistible grace, and the perseverance of the saints. Now, Total depravity teaches that all men are born not just simply with a sinful nature, but that this nature of sin that we have also limits us in our natural state and prevents us from coming to Christ of our own will. And this is, of course, seen especially in John chapter 6, specifically within verses 44 to 65. So you have those parts there. Then unconditional election, which essentially teaches that there is nothing because of we're being sinful, and that there is no, according to Isaiah and Jeremiah, that there is the heart is being deceitful at its natural state, and that there is no good concerning our deeds. Therefore, there's not a single thing we can do to earn or merit any form of salvation or deserving to be in God's presence or to be his favorite. But he chooses or elects a certain people, like he chose Israel, and in this particular case of the context that we're talking about, he chooses the church for salvation. Then limited atonement teaches and this is the most controversial teaching of 5-point Calvinism, is that it teaches that you have the cross, the atonement for salvation, and with that, Christ did not die for every single individual on earth. He didn't die for it to make it possible for salvation, but he died so that it was a guarantee. So, meaning that Christ only died for those elect, which is the church, and those who he knew would be part of that. The next one is irresistible grace, which simply means that if Christ has saving grace that he wishes to send upon that individual, that kind of grace cannot be resisted. There are other graces that can, but saving grace is something that's a God grace that cannot be resisted. And then you have perseverance of the saints, which teaches that whoever is a true believer will persevere to the end, meaning a true conversion will result in fruits that cause the person to remain a Christian to the day that they die. So that is 5-point Calvinism there. So hopefully that was able to be helpful there. That sounds heretical a bit about Jesus not dying for everyone. Well, not really, because you have several verses that seems to indicate such a thing. And in fact, if you ever come on here, I'll be willing to show you the Bible verses. In fact, if you just read John chapter 3, verses 16 to 18, keep in mind, 16 to 18, that's right there, shows limited atonement itself. So I'm pretty familiar with the Bible passages, and even wrote an essay on this concerning the defense of this. This one guy, you can actually join. That's why I put the link out, and it's actually in the description. All you got to do is just click on it and join, and you can get it. Just message me to let me know who you are, and that way I can get you the live stream Warriors role. So speaking of which, if anyone else does want to come on in, feel free to... Oh, hold up. Wrong one. Where in the world is... Okay, there it is. Messed up there for a second. Yeah, live stream warrior role means that you have to have the live stream warrior role to join in. So we'll do that. So let's see here. Let's give... Alright, so the guys got in. And I don't know if that means that like you're in there. So, because I see deconverted man's there. So, alright. We'll return the image back to here. Alright. Hold up.
Hello?
Hello.
Okay.
Alright.
Alright, can you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, just making sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, that sounds like, what do you mean by the church, and who is the church, and what represents the church? Because I believe all of us as the The whole world is the church of Christ, the bodies of Christ.
Where does it say that the
So
whole
that's a little bit
world?
confusing. I know there's going to be some cast aside, but a good majority and good portion of the world.
It's only the
Not to mention
believers.
those included in the past.
It's only the believers.
We'll define believers as just Jesus Christ, or
Those who believe in Jesus Christ. Yeah.
so. Okay, my whole view on it, because like I said, I have a different thing about it, so it's a little confusing. What do you? I'll just have to let you continue before I can even say even my piece, because like I said, I'm new to the faith and all that. I'm about 8 months in, and I really can't say I can't just spit scriptures out. I can paraphrase, and that's about it. So all I can do, I can't just say this is the exact verse where I'm talking about.
Right.
But I do paraphrase a little bit good. But I still don't know like the scripture. I can't verbatim throw scriptures out. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So, concerning some of the passages, like I said, John chapter 3, verses 16 through 18 are some of those. Another example would be John chapter 10, verses 11 through 16, John chapter 10, verses 26 to 28, John chapter 17, verse 9, Acts 13, 48, Acts 20, 28, Matthew chapter 20, verse 28, Matthew 25, verses 31 through 33, Matthew 26, 28. Even there's concepts of it in Isaiah 53, verse 11 through 12. So even an Old Testament concept. Hebrews 9:28, Mark 10:45. So there's several passages, but instead of just machine gunning them, I'll just explain what some of these verses are. So we're going to go with an interesting concept here. Matthew chapter 20, verse 28 says, "Even as the Son of Man," referring to Jesus, "came not to be ministered unto, but to minister and to give his life a ransom for many." Now, the key phrase here is or the key word is that word "many." It didn't say gave a life as a ransom for all, ransom for many. And so that is who the ransom is for, this many that is being in reference here. And in Isaiah chapter 53, verse 11 through 12, it says, "He shall see the travail of his soul, and shall be satisfied. By his knowledge shall my righteous servant justify many, for he shall bear their iniquities." So we see that this little passage here in Matthew has been prophesied about in the Old Testament in Isaiah 53. And so he has borne the sins of many, meaning that there's not an all. There is still a limitation to it. So, and it even says the same thing at the Last Supper, where he says, "This is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins." So all those passages seem to indicate the shedding of blood is set for those. Now, where's the context then that leads us to believe that this is in reference to believers? Now, go to John chapter 3. And there, in verse 16, says, "For God loved the world as so," or "so loved the world," however you want to go with it, depending on the translation you have, "that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." So right there it says, whoever believes, or
All right, let me ask you this. What do you think?
Go ahead.
What do you think? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize for that. What do you think? Jesus. I see the point you're saying. If you have to believe in him and all that, and that's what salvation is for. What do you think that happens after we die? Was going to be my next question. Everyone on Earth, people including in faith and people who aren't faith. What do you think happens to them after death?
Okay, so it depends on how God decides to deal with them. When it comes to infants, I do believe that they are people that God looks over and then decides to allow them into heaven, because they technically haven't broken the law. They haven't committed any sin themselves as a result. So that's why I believe that, like aborted fetuses, babies that die in miscarriage, or any of these other things, they go to heaven because they haven't committed any sin. They haven't done any of that. And that is what is considered the results of death is sin. It says the wages of sin is death. So if you commit sin, then you commit a spiritual death that sends you to hell. Babies don't do that concerning that. But as far as those that aren't believers, they die and do not repent and turn to Christ. Then, like it says concerning what John chapter 3 verse 18 says, that those who believe will not perish, but those who do not believe have been condemned already, for they have not believed in the only begotten Son of God. And then, of course, we had the issues within Romans chapter 3 and Romans chapter 6 that talk about the issue of sin.
So another thing is
Let this be
when
the
we
last question,
die,
because we gotta get. Let this be the last question, because we gotta move on to others.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a lot of questions then, so I better not ask anymore then.
All right, just keep them in mind, because we will come back to you though. So, all right. So I see we have a deconverted man in here.
Yep.
Hello.
Hi.
Ah, there you go.
Here?
Yeah, I can hear a bit. It sounded like you cut it in and
Do
out.
I exist?
You exist.
Oh, okay.
You're not a brain. We're not a brain in a vat.
Well, some people like to argue that. Well, there's many ways I could go, but I think I'll go with the classic that I asked in chat, which is that that God originally reveals itself to the Jewish people, and then later Jesus reveals himself to other Jewish people. What about the rest of the world that's alive during those times? They don't know anything about God and or Jesus later on. So why is it so tribal? Why only reveal its presence to a small group of people like that?
Because God can do as he wants, and he decided for this particular case that he just wanted it to be with the Israelites versus the others. Now, in terms of being a personal relationship, he chose that. As far as the knowledge of God, this God existed, and everyone knew that this God existed at that time period. They just chose to worship it in different formats, hence why they ended up going after the strange gods. They were familiar with the supernatural, and they were familiar with the concept of this God and the other Elohim.
People in Asia were familiar with Elohim.
People in Asia were familiar with the concepts, yes.
How?
How?
How? How would they be familiar with it since God only revealed itself
based
to
on
Jewish
based on the fact that they would have moral values, based on the fact that they can't function without presupposing the existence of God.
But they might not have a God concept. You have no idea that that's the case.
I have a pretty good feeling about it based off of some of the studies I've seen.
I might have an answer for that, but this isn't my show, so I'm just trying to let you know that I might have an answer for that.
You're breaking up really bad, man.
Well, it was good.
A feeling isn't a fact, though. It seems to be kind of an ad hoc explanation.
I'm saying based off of the scientific experiments that have been done and conducted on this matter, about even those that claim to be, for example, non-believers, like what you have in Finland, where an experiment was done on those, especially within like atheist activist groups, were taking part into this experiment. Huh?
What are you referring to?
I forget the exact name. I'd have to take a look at it, but it was part of it was eventually, the results were published in a peer review journal or article itself for it. I'm have to take a look and see what
there's also the Piana people who, or however you want to pronounce their name, who have no concept of God. They also don't have any concept of before, in the sense that we do. They actually wound up deconverting a missionary because he tried to tell them the God story, but they just laughed at it. They thought it was nonsense. It didn't make any sense to them. You know, the fact of the matter is that all these people exist for millions of years apart from Judaism. In fact, Judaism doesn't even begin until late in the game. So you have millions of years past before anybody has God reveal itself to them. Unless you believe in an actual Adam and Eve. So I guess that would be another question. Do you believe in an actual Adam and Eve and how old is the Earth and all that. I don't know what your beliefs are.
Believe there was an Adam and Eve, and I believe the Earth is billions of years old.
But Adam and Eve, so who would they be? Would they be the first, humans, as in the modern day
yes.
humans, or would they be Cro-Magnon man, or would they?
They would be the first.
Who would
they would be the first humans.
Okay, so they were picked to represent the rest of humanity while all the other humans were around, or what happened?
That
to
is
them?
one theory.
So they were
Yes,
just isolated.
that is one. That is.
Wow.
Yeah, that is one theory that's out
I
there.
don't know if you'd call it a theory.
Well, there's many different theories on Adam and Eve that are out there. Some believe that there was an actual Adam and Eve. Some believe that there, here's how it goes. Some people believe that Adam and Eve were evolved. Some people believe it out of special creation. Some people believe that the Adam and Eve concept isn't for example, the Genesis 1-3 narrative just simply leaves out a sort of a parable type of narrative. But while they still existed, all they're being used is to put out a structure of being representatives of what man and woman are in the relationship with God, essentially. So it, again, depends on how the theory is that you take concerning how you view Adam and Eve in line with history and theology when it comes to that subject.
They would also have to be the proto-Jews, wouldn't they?
The proto-Jews?
I mean, they'd have to be like the first Jews because God only revealed Himself, Yahweh.
Not necessarily.
Got Abraham and all that.
Not necessarily.
Let me ask you a different question. What is?
Well, if this is another question, keep in mind the main thing I'm trying to do is limit it to one at a time, so that way we can get to some of the other people.
All right.
So we'll get.
You got this one, guys. So he's got.
All right. So.
I'm happy to answer this one, guys' question.
All right. So let's see. Let's see what we got in the live chat for anyone that's in there. Let's see. I saw he came in. I don't know what's up with that. Jesus is Lord said, deconverted man. What's up?
Hey.
Alright.
Oh, Jill. No, good.
Let's see. Dragnot. Oh, yeah, I did see his thing in the chat. Which reminds me, let me get him the thing there. All right. There we go. So now he's a live stream warrior. Let's see. Josh Herbal. 5 peeps. Wow, it's busy. Nah, if it was 10, that would be busy. 5 is like just half of what I normally get. Now, 26 was something when we did the live stream with the furries on the podcast episode a while back. Now, that was something. Let's see. One way, some believe that Adam and Eve were the first to enter a covenant, and there were people even before them. Interesting stuffs. Yep. So I think that was what John Walton was talking about. Okay. By the way, that study, before I move on to the Discord, show questions only, Deconverted Man, it's entitled Atheists Become Emotionally Aroused When Daring God to Do Terrible Things, which, let me see, the researchers are Marjana is that, okay, no, that's not an R, Lindman, so Marjana Lindman, Bethany Haywood, Tapani Reiki, and Tommy Makkonen. So this was published in 2014 under the Journal of the International Journal for the Psychology of Religion. And they just simply did some experiments between the religious and the non-religious in Finland. So.
Now, a whole 16 atheists. That's an extraordinarily small sample size.
That's on one part of the study.
I'm somewhat surprised that it even flew as a publication. That's an insanely small.
Where does it say that's only 16 though?
Nothing.
I remember reading it, and that's actually just on one day.
That is Wow.
Where does it say only 16, though? I read it, and it doesn't just simply say 16. It says it on one day they did it, but they did this on multiple days with different groups and different people.
I see that study 1, study 2.
Right.
19 atheists the next time. Wow.
Exactly.
Wow, that's not very much. That's
I agree.
That's nothing.
I agree. It's not too much. I agree.
You would want like 1,000 or something like that.
Agreed.
To be even,
Agreed.
decent. But all this is you become emotionally aroused, whatever that means, when you dare God to do terrible things. Great.
Right, and that's why I would recommend you to read the study.
Dare Santa Claus to do terrible things, see if the same thing happens.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. I'd have to pay for it.
No, I actually have the study for free. I managed to get it for free.
All right.
And if you want it, I can send it to you later.
Cool. Can you? Yeah. Sure.
Right.
Absolutely. Put it in the chat. I'll check it out. But it's an extraordinarily small sample size. I'm not impressed by it.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest.
Right. Anyways.
Then all you need is one counter example. So if I'm the atheist/skeptic that doesn't become emotionally aroused when I dare God to do things, then what? Well then, so does your theory then die because I'm the one counter example?
Concerning the counter example, if they manage to find something that can debunk it, then yeah, I'll be willing to concede my claim. So again, focusing on what we have going on in the live chat. Jesus is Lord asks, how do I get on Discord? I gave you the live stream warrior role because I saw you came in last time.
The description.
Yeah, so let me see. Yeah, I see right there. Jesus is Lord, and literally says I'm new to Discord. So all you got to do is just come on in and then click the thing that says the live stream warrior thing. So. Alright, Melito of Sardis. Should Christians be involved in the culture war, free speech, Crowder, Sargon? Haven't heard Sargon in a while. I mean, it really depends on the situation. Like, to me, like, some of the things I've been seeing lately have just been things that... And this is why I try not to get too much involved in politics, because to me the whole thing is stupid regardless of what side. That's why, to me at this point, I'm just not even voting at this point, because no matter what, you vote for the left, you get a scumbag. You vote for the right, you get a scumbag. So that's why at this point I just dropped out of the whole thing. But in terms of other issues, like for example the ability to have free speech, I think all people should be able to have that. No limits on things about what we should say or practice concerning religion, concerning our political ideas, what we have to say about politics in general for those who don't even have any interest in politics. These kinds of things I think should be allowed, because that gives us the basic decency to be humans at that point. So alright, so that's all we got for the questions in the live chat at the moment. So let's go ahead and get to some of the show questions. Alright, starting off with Theistic Logos. So, oh yeah, hold up a second. Make sure to get this up. By the way, for those of y'all that are watching, if y'all are curious on how to ask or participate, send your show questions into the live chat. Join the live stream via Discord, which is in the description if you want the link to come in. Only those with the live stream warrior will be able to enter, so if y'all want one, be sure to ask and we'll try to see if we can test you. But if I know you, yeah, definitely be able to get in immediately. And then ask questions via our show questions only section on Discord. So there's two other ways you can ask on Discord. Alright. So let's see here. Let me delete that one because that just says daddy. Alright, so Theistic Logos asked, why does Jesus say in John 5, I think that's where it is, that he can do nothing on his own? Now, I don't know if that's in John 5. Hold up a second. I'm just getting something here. Okay. So yeah, when it comes to that passage, I know what you're kind of going at. I'm gonna have to look for it to see where we're at specifically in John 5, if that's where it is, where Jesus says, I can do nothing apart from the will of the Father. What's going on there is that he is basically humbling himself in submission, which is what he's come as. He's come as a humble servant to serve and do the will of the Father. So that is essentially what it is, that he's humbled himself and lowered himself to be of that. In fact, let's see. Regardless of whether or not it is in there or not, we're going to at least show. So let me get my Bible online software up. One thing that's in John chapter 5, verse 36. But I have the greater witness than that of John, for the works which the Father hath given me to finish. The same works that I do bear witness of me, that the Father hath sent me. And the Father himself which hath sent me hath borne witness of me. Ye have neither heard his voice at any time, nor seen his shape. And ye have not his word abiding. Sorry about that. And ye have not his word abiding in you. For whom he hath sent, him ye believe not. Okay. So, right there, we have this whole thing on this paragraph of Jesus, where he says that he is sent from the Father, and he's doing the works that the Father has sent him to do. So, and this all goes back to the Old Testament, which talks about the prophecy of the Messiah. Hold up a second. Okay, yeah, I actually was hearing something. I don't know why the volume for James entering the room was low. That was kind of strange and off-putting, but all right. So, welcome aboard, James. All right, where was I? Okay, there. Yeah, so the Father has been sent, or the Father sent the Son. And again, going back to the Old Testament, the messianic prophecies, which then is fulfilled with Christ doing the works of the Father, including eventually going to be doing the one of being crucified, so that his sins would, or that he would bear the sins of those of his chosen people, those of the elect, those of who put their faith and trust in him. So that's essentially what I get from that particular passage, or that particular concept, when it comes to when Jesus says that he can do nothing apart from the Father, nothing apart from the will of God. That is what's going on here. So, thank you for that question. Let me get this back on the banner, and we're back. Last question in the live, on the show questions only thing on Discord, which, by the way, if y'all want to ask more in there, feel free to do so. If you, especially for some of those that may not have a good memory and they just want to put something down. But yeah, Muse asked, did you raid Lifeway since it's closing? Yes, mine had closed down about a few days ago, and I raided it and took advantage of the 90 to 80% or the 80 to 90% discounts on all the books there. So I got like 4 books, including an Old Testament survey book that was from there. So that'll help more with my Old Testament studies as I continue carrying out that subject. So yeah, I did take good advantage of it, but it's sad that it's closed. And the only thing is left is a local bookstore, which I know that lady's going to get a little bit stressed out with the stuff. But yeah, Lifeway had shut down, and it's kind of sad. But hey, that's the point when I guess online is the way to shop these days, and it's going to soon drive out some of the retail stores out. But anyways, that being said and done, thank you for your question there, Muse. Alright, let's chop back in here, which, by the way, we're going to be doing this thing here where we have it a first come first serve now that we got a good bit of an order arranged and set up. I don't know because he asked the question of if he can come in or how to come in, and let me see if I can buzz him, because it says he's online unless he doesn't know how to use or operate this. So we'll see how this works. So we'll see if we get Jesus is Lord in here. All right, so the way that it happens, I'm going to make sure to take note, is this one guy, then Deconverted Man, and then James. So that's the order that it came in. That's the order we're going to go by when answering your questions. So go ahead and let's get this on the road. So starting with this one guy.
So Oops, sorry, I forgot my music was loud. Um, where were we in my last part of it? Like, well, what? Yeah, like, so. Do you think everyone gets an automatic judgment of heaven and a hell choice?
All right, so let me see if I can understand I guess you're asking if do I believe that it's either heaven or hell when it comes to when that particular person dies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, there's a lot of static. Are you still driving?
Yeah, I'm still driving. I'm sorry.
How much longer till you get to where you need to be?
About 2 hours.
2 hours? Where the heck are you?
I'm heading home. I always go to like Six Flags for the kids on like the weekends, so that we're heading home from there.
Ah, all right. All right, so when it comes to heaven or hell, yeah, that's going to be one of the two places. It's either, as Jesus says, you're either for me or you're against me. And the two places that are always mentioned is either that of going to heaven in the New Testament or that of going to hell. So and the Bible clearly states that those who believe and those who put their trust in Christ, they are saved. But those who do not, they are the ones. They are the ones who are. It says in John chapter 3 verse 18 that they stand condemned already, and it's because of the sin that they have, because they also don't put their faith and trust in Christ. And so it says when those people are there, then they go to hell. When it comes to those who put their faith and trust in Christ, as well as we have those who haven't committed sin, hence the infants, those go to heaven.
Okay. Now, I'm not trying to add on to this, though, and this is exactly the moment after death. Just for clarification.
All right, repeat that again because you cut in and out a bit.
I apologize. I said, so this is happening at the exact moment of death, correct?
Well, I don't know exactly how the process works. I haven't died and went to either of those places, so I haven't gone through that experience. But all I know is that when someone dies, depending on where they stand with God, they're either going to go to heaven or they're either going to go to hell.
There's no wait period, you're saying, for...
I don't know if there's going to be a wait period or not. Again, the Bible doesn't tell us about that.
It kind of does in Revelations.
All right, so it does mention a waiting period?
Yes.
All right, where at?
I'll have to explain. This is not the right proper hangout for it, so I'll have to explain it later.
Okay.
So you can continue on with the next person's questions, like I said, because otherwise explaining this would take up the whole airtime.
All right, well, I was just asking for one verse, but all right. Let's go ahead and go to Deconverted Man with his question then.
Okay, well, I had many ideas, but I thought that it would be better if we could set up a debate and or a talk, just you and I, sometime.
What about?
If you'd be up for that. Beliefs versus logic.
Okay.
That's not a fair argument to make. Sorry for interrupting.
So, like, I mean, so what? Just discussing what we believe and what?
Yeah, I mean, if we were going to do just a conversation, you know, I'd ask, you know, those pesky skeptical questions.
Right.
You know, but if we were going to do a debate, that'd be much more interesting, I think. But you'd have to go through the pre-debate process and all that.
Mm-hmm. Right. All right. So I guess then, I mean, if that was your question about if we could set one of those up, then I mean, sure.
Yeah, if we could set that up, you know.
I mean, sure.
You got my email. I mean, my email is deconvertedman1@gmail.com. Anyone can email
Right.
me.
And I believe I have sent.
Yeah, that was my one question. I'm pretty tired, so I was gonna ask some other stuff, but you know.
All right.
I'll get out of here. You know, I'll let your non-jaded skeptic people ask you questions. All right.
Well, I mean, I don't
Peace
mind
out,
whoever.
man.
I don't mind whoever asks questions. Alright.
All right. One thing we all agree on:
Hey.
lobsters exist. I'm out.
Alright, take care, man. Alright, so onward to James.
Hello.
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 How'd your little thing go, by the way?
The convention, it went pretty decent. Sorry, I'm trying to think back on it. It was decent. I know next time if I do a presentation like that, I'm gonna have to have slides to keep people a little bit more interactive with it. But I felt like it went pretty decent. It was a steady trickle as people left, and then most of the people who stayed were staying for the next panel. But when I mentioned putting essentially trust in Christ at the end there were people who just started leaving. It was more like if people weren't staying for the next panel, they probably would have left en masse as soon as I mentioned Christ.
Right.
But it honestly didn't bother me. It bothered my wife more than it bothered me. But I thought of it as, well, not turning their back on me, they're turning their back on God.
Right.
And that's their own decision, what they want to make. I'm not gonna force them. But with that being said, convention went pretty decent. It was a little boring. I think next year might be a little bit more fun, and I'm planning on doing another convention panel. And I was trying to think of a good topic that was something that I was a little bit more knowledgeable on. And I was thinking Kenshin Amora in terms of turning the other cheek and forgiveness.
Knew it. I called it.
You say you knew it?
I called it. I knew that was going to be the next one.
Yeah, because I was thinking he would have been a really good example.
Yep, and you are a Kenshin fan.
Yes, I am very much so. I have all the seasons of the original Rurouni Kenshin that appeared back in the 90s.
I technically do, but it's in the form of Netflix. So
I didn't. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, good old net.
That is right.
Good old flicks of net.
Well, I'm gonna present my question here now, since I'll probably still listen on my phone, but I'm gonna be making some dinner.
All right.
So my question is Jesus, when he was on the earth, he was submissive. He was submitting himself to the Father.
Yes.
Now, is Christ... What?
Yes.
I thought you were saying something. He was submissive to the Father while he was on earth. When he resurrected and went up into heaven, is he continuously submissive to the will of the Father, or is he, I guess, of equal standing with the Father? I don't know how else to put it, but is he equal with the Father in terms of not having to submit to the Father? Rather, the Father and the Son, and as well the Spirit, all being equal in...
repeat that again.
So, am I cutting in and out?
No, it's just I'm trying to make sure that I want to get this.
Sorry,
I make sure to not strawman your question, so that way if there's something that I may feel like I might miss, I want to make sure just that I know what you're...
Okay, let me see if I can put the mic closer. There we go. So let me see if I can try to put it simpler. So Christ came to earth and was submitting to the will of the Father. Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. So when he resurrected, does he still submit to the will of the Father, or is him and the Father, and I would assume as well as the Spirit, interposing, I don't know if that's the right word, their will upon all of creation, meaning they're all equal in every manner? There's no first the Father, then the Son, then the Spirit. That I'm just curious about that.
Well, as far as that goes, I mean, I believe that at the moment, from what I have studied, it is pretty much based off of the from what Scripture says. Jesus is in submission to the Father during his earthly ministry. And I think to some degree that would kind of be there still within heaven. We just don't know what that's like or what that would entail. But we do know, like, there's seated at the right hand of the Father, imagery that's in reference there. So that's where we sort of see them being side by side in that regard.
I know that he's judge over all of creation, and that it's said that the Father has given him all authority.
Right.
Well, that's part of the reason why I'm asking as well.
Mm-hmm.
It was just more out of curiosity is why I was asking.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So yeah, that was my question.
Well, thank you for it, mate.
Yeah. All right. So I might still be on the live stream for a little bit. I'm on the desktop right now. I'm gonna switch over to my phone with my headset. And yeah. All right. So I'll sign off for a few minutes.
All right, sure thing, man.
All right.
Okay. So we got 6 homies, 6 peeps, 6 homies. I almost for some reason wanted to just call them corn dogs, but I don't know why. That would have just been weird. But hey, if any of y'all want to come on in, or any of y'all want to ask a question, there's several ways to do so. Feel free to join in the live stream via Discord, but you have to have the live stream warrior role, so ask me for it to come on in. And that's how you'll be able to enter. There's my southern voice going on. Then you can send your questions into the live chat. Then ask your questions via our show questions only section on Discord. So those are your ways, provided here by tiny little chibi version of me with some spooky line eyes. Yeah! Alright. That being said, I don't know, one day we're just gonna have to drag you in here at some point. Alright. So, alright, well, I guess we don't have anyone there, and we are out of show questions only. So at this point, oh wait, hold up. We got a star that's typing something in. What in the world? And why do I feel like I've heard that name before? Oh well. We'll see what happens with their question. RC, are you gonna do some more raps? Hold up.
The Christian corn dogs. Sorry, you said.
Yeah. You sound very staticky.
Better?
No, it's still damaging my ears.
Oh gosh.
Oh,
It sounds like you're on the electric chair.
Yeah, I don't know if it might be like a little circuit clipping going on with your with part of the wires of the mic or anything, but I do know that it's still there.
Alright, I'm gonna switch headsets.
Yeah, probably a good idea there.
Do you think the force is with them?
Nah, I just feel like terrible technology we live in. Heck, the thing happened to mine a while back. That's why I don't. Honestly, I'm not too much of a technology kind of guy. I only use it because I apparently have to reach out to some people with it and get some work done. But hey, what can you do? Alright, so this is why I prefer paperback or hardcover books compared to like ebooks these days. One way, RC, when are you gonna do some more raps? I don't know. Why about you give me something and I'll try working with it. I don't know, just for some silliness. I mean, I ain't no vocab Malone, so I definitely can't. I'm definitely not be able to do any of that. So.
Better?
Much better. Oh my goodness, that's so soothing. Say potatoes.
Potatoes.
Oh my goodness, that's so much better. Yep. All right, so no distortions, no anything like that. Ugh.
Mash them, bake them, stick them in a stew.
Boy. Anyways. One way said you sounded like
somebody.
One way said you sounded like Raiden from Mortal Kombat.
Raiden from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
I am an elder god.
Oh boy, don't let it get to your head. You see what you're doing one way. You see what you've done.
I must defend Earthrealm.
Oh boy, defend Earthrealm.
Do not provoke a god.
Oh boy. Anyways, see, this is the point of idolatry, is when we have people thinking they're Raiden and they're going saying, "I am a god." Like, it's like a Kanye West video game nerd.
The Book of Yeezy.
Oh my goodness.
The video game of Yeezy.
That whole thing was cringe. Anyways, I don't know what's going on with the Galactic Star here. They are typing in their question, and it's taking them some time, so we may have ourselves a lengthy one to answer. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I've been currently going through a history of philosophy, and I'm learning from a man named Bruce Dorr.
I'm an idiot.
What?
I just now realized who it is after scrolling up a bit. It's this one person I know in the Christian furry group. I don't know why. I just I hate my mind. I hate my memories. I can't remember so well. So terrible. Yeah, boy. Oh well, we'll see how this. We'll see what the question is, because I can see that they're definitely gonna have some. Because this person asked some good questions. All right.
Mind if we ask questions while they're waiting?
Let's get to this one guy. Let's see what he's got.
Okay.
I had one, then I just lost it. It was something along the lines of, see if I can get it back. Something to do with abortion. I believe it says in Revelations, but the Lord starts to use abortion as a terms for a punishment. Do you think that we have that going on now? Like, he mentioned something in Scripture about Jezebel or something like that, and her or something, and the abortions, I believe, are going to be used as a punishment, not a sin, I'm sorry, as a punishment towards, I think, this individual.
Alright, so from what I got from that, you were saying that the word abortion is used in the Bible or in Revelation, and something about Jezebel.
And the Lord saying that it's being, like, he uses it as a punishment.
Well, I would have to see the verse where it would say that.
I forgot where it's at. I know it's in Revelations. I think it's either in chapter 3, I think.
Because I see Jezebel's mentioned in chapter 2, verse 20.
Yeah, it could be chapter 2.
Alright, so...
And a horrible website, too.
Mm-hmm. So, let's see. Let me pull up my software for those that are watching in the live stream for this. Notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee, because thou sufferest the woman Jezebel, which calleth herself a prophetess, to teach and to seduce my servants to commit fornication and to eat things sacrificed unto idols. And I gave her space to repent of her fornication, and she repented not. Behold, I will cast her into a bed, and them that commit adultery with her into great tribulation, except they repent of their deeds. And I will kill their children with death, and all the churches shall know that I am he which searcheth the rein and hearts, and I will give unto every one of you according to your works. So I think where I'm seeing what you might be getting at is that verse 23, which says, and I will kill their children with death.
Yes. I'm sorry. That's why I'm saying I correlated that to abortion. Do you think that's what it could be also indicating, or no?
I don't think that would be part of it, because the issue is that some of them that would be regarded with that could be in the same concept of just simply not infants, but the word that being used, let me see what we got in the Greek, teknon, simply just means a child. So it can be something that's even already been born.
I'm granting that already. I'm saying that. Do you think it could be mean as abortion as well?
Not necessarily, because I think this is something that's a much bigger scale.
That's what I was talking about. We see it more prevalent today in modern times, and that's where the idea arose. Like, hey, maybe that's why this is happening.
No, a lot much bigger than what we're dealing with now. Like, for example, we keep reading verse 24, but unto you I say, and unto the rest in Thyatira. So we know that this is one of the context, that this is in reference about what's going on in Thyatira. As many as have not this doctrine, and which have not known the depths of Satan, as they speak, I will put upon you none other but burden, but that which ye have already hold fast till I come. And he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto him, to him will I give power over the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, as the vessels of potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I received my Father. And I will give him the morning star. And he that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. So the main context here is that
referring to what John's talking about, with what Jesus is talking about to John in the Spirit,
right,
about the
right,
church of Smyrna.
Thyatira. This is the main context is talking about an angel of the church in Thyatira, and is writing these things, saying, "These things saith the Son of God, who hath his eyes like unto a flame of fire, and his feet are like fine brass."
I believe that's John talking, and then the one with that, it's
actually that's the angel that's writing that, because it says and unto the angel of the church in Thyatira, right?
Well, in some of the texts they can use angels can mean messenger,
right? And this
as
and
well.
This is referring to, especially since the context here, especially in the light of the red letters being used, though I think you just simply look around to see the context here. This is Jesus that is speaking and saying, these are the things that you need to write. So John technically did write these things, but they first came out of the words of Jesus.
That's to John.
Right, so it says, I know thy works, and charity, and service, and faith, and thy patience, and thy works, and the last to be more than the first. So we have all that's there. So the context is that this is in reference to something that's going on in Thyatira at this moment, and that unless they repent, one of the things it says is that I will kill her children with death, and all the churches shall know that I am he which searcheth the reins. So this is something.
Sorry about that.
So yeah, this ain't nothing about abortion that's going on here. Now that is a sin, but doesn't mean that Revelation 2:20 is necessarily dealing with it.
Well, the only thing I had to say about John is it's supposed to happen. The Revelation is supposed to happen sometime in the future.
Right.
Then, so
right.
How do we not know that this is going per se right now?
That's the thing. We don't know. We'll never know until it actually happens.
That's what I'm saying. If the children are being lost, so to speak, and it's hard to explain.
But it's not the first. But it's not the first time that they're doing this. I mean, they did this during the time.
Obviously,
They did this during the time of the 1st century and the 2nd century. They did this all over the place in terms of offering children up as sacrifices for Moloch, in terms of offering up children for these other pagan deities, in terms of just killing people in general. But the concept is that we're talking about a thing that is not done by human hands, because it says here that it is the Lord himself, it is God himself who's going to kill the children with death, in the same kind of way that what we see in Exodus born. So that is more so what the death concept is.
The concept of the children?
Huh?
Sorry, I said the death concept of the children? Are the children dying?
I'm sorry, say again?
Yeah, never mind. Just move on.
Okay, because I'm just saying that from what you read in that text, when it says, and I will kill her children with death, this is in reference to the Lord. This is in reference to God. It's in reference to Christ, who says, I will kill her children with death. And all the churches shall know that I am he which searcheth the reins and hearts, and I will give unto everyone of you according to your works. So it doesn't say anything here about abortion, unless we want to say that Jesus is the one, or God's the one that's doing all the abortions in the world today.
Well, I would imagine, like you said, like Exodus, let's say he's hardening the women's heart, like in Exodus, what he does with Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm.
So they're more inclined to get an abortion. Would that not be the will of the Lord?
Right, but it's never used in that language concerning that. It does, for example, nowhere in the Exodus does it say that he therefore is rejecting the people from being free. He's saying it's still the Pharaoh that is still rejecting the Israelites from being free. When God decides to initiate an action of which he himself wants to do, that's when he says that he will do the action, hence, and I will kill their children, just like when it says the issue about the killing of the firstborn. They didn't use other people to go in and kill them. He used angels, but it still was the action of Yahweh, and of who knows about the angel that was being used, the angel of death. So the whole point is it's still an I will kill. This is coming directly from God, is what this is going to be.
All right, I halfway got what you're saying because my stupid phone's cutting in and out because of traffic.
All right. Well, don't worry. This will be. I mean, this is live, and this will be recorded and posted online once we're done. So if you ever want to, just go back and listen.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So thank you for your question there. And for those of y'all that are still tuning in, feel free again. Reminder to ask in your questions, and we'll be sure to get them answered. In fact, we're going to get to the one that's in the show questions only section in a bit. But at the moment, we're going to just go ahead and go to James with his question.
Sorry, I have my phone locked.
No, you're good, man.
Let's see. Is cereal a soup?
Really? Of course it's a soup. It said it's a soup.
I would have to say
it's a soup though. You have to be fancy with it.
I would say no, it's not a soup because it's cold.
Oh, okay. You have a point there. But my serious question is, what books have you been reading, and have you been listening to any type of lecture series?
I actually have a video I just did last night of a book that I just got done reading, and it is. Let me actually just go ahead and get it. And then great. I also realized that I still left the other one in the car, but here we go. This is a good book. The first one I'll explain that's in the car is from Ibn Warwick, titled "Which Quran?" And it's in all honesty, while it's published in 2008, it is pretty much a dated book, because all it is articles from Orientalist scholars from the 1920s to the 1950s.
Ooh,
yeah,
it's a little old.
And the reason for that is because the studies that are being done is something that is discouraged, especially among Muslim scholars and in Islamic studies today. And that's what's a shame and what's sad concerning the issues of studying the Quran and studying, or just Islamic studies in general. Hence, a good bit of the Orientalists are digging into new things. Like, for example, Gerhard Puin, who is a Orientalist scholar from Germany, who has discovered, or he made some groundbreaking research into the Sa'ana palimpsest. He pretty much says that there's like textual variations within that, and a bunch of other stuff. And only recently has it come across the idea of actual Muslim scholars to partake in this. For example, let me actually get to one of them. Let's see here. What was his name? We have Mohsen Gerdazi and Benham Sadeghi. Those are two Muslim scholars that wrote a thing on Apologist that reveals some interesting information. I actually have a theological discussion podcast episode going over some of their info and their data, so if anyone wants to go watch that and check it out. By the way, I see everything biblical in the chat. Yes, I did check your I did see your question. So yeah, you can
if you start hearing sizzling in the background, I'm cooking turkey meat.
There you go. So
good stuff.
Oh yeah, good stuff. So yeah, we did answer your question a while back. But anyways, going back to the point. So that's the one book that I've been reading, and it's pretty much I would still recommend it because it still contains some good information for people from the good history of things. But the other one that I got is called Corrections in Early Quran Manuscripts, 20 Examples by Daniel Allen Brubaker. This is a new scholar, brand new. This is his first ever book that he's published, and though it's $30 for a literally 90-page book of data minus the footnotes.
Oh, wow.
What's interesting about this is that this is actually just a sample of his doctoral thesis for his dissertation. And it is about intentional changes in the Quranic manuscripts. And he only offers 20 examples where we have several things, for example, and some of them are mostly minor, like, for example, and I can't show them on the screen, but he does say where they come from, like the Topkapi manuscript folio number 122V, which has a word that's basically like you have the word the way that the script and the Quran is written and everything, but after it's written, then someone comes later on and tries to not erase but squeeze in an extra word into the text. And so with the word they squeezed is, according to Brubaker, quote, the photograph above shows an insertion of the word huwa, which means it is, in Surah 9, Ayah 72. The Quran we have today reads, and Allah's good pleasure is greater, that is, the great triumph. So it says, and Allah's good pleasure is greater, that is the great triumph. But instead, if we subtract it, go with the original reading, subtracting the insertion, we get, and Allah's good pleasure is greater, the great triumph. So it doesn't really change the meaning too much, but we do see still that there is an insertion that was added into the Quran later. But then you get into things that are definitely more complicated, like, for example, 9 post-production insertions of Allah into the 7th and 8th century manuscript texts. And then, let's see here, I do know there was one that was definitely interesting, was that there's an entire erasure. So it is in the manuscript Marcel II in the National Library of Russia on folio 30V. And you can see it clearly that someone took the that one phrase and just erased it. And this is normally usually done from what I learned with like these little rocks that they would take and they would do it to scrub it out. And the only problem is that, as far from what I recall reading, is that it's scrubbed out in such a way that we can't make out what was originally there. But all we know is that it came, follows the word akabatu, the fate, and the word that comes next is of those. So we know that that's what the reading is now in most of our Qurans today, but back then there was something in between, and that's what the whole point of his thesis is that the whole purpose of these corrections, these erasings, and these insertions all seem to be about trying to get to the Hafs Quran that we have, or the 1924 Cairo text that we have today. That it's basically trying to slowly over time develop this standard, which before then it didn't, and they were doing so by taking Qurans at that time and trying to change them to change history. At least that seems to be one thing. And in fact, one of the different examples that is given is tapings. There is certain things where you can look and you see a lot of tapings have been going over in the over the different Arabic letters, and it just looks very much off. And they not only just would do that, but sometimes they would just tape them to erase the words. Sometimes they would tape over them and would write different words on top of it. And so that's what's pretty interesting, is that you have all these different like insertions and changes and deletions of passages that really causes us to question the traditional narrative of the Quranic transmission history. And so that's what I've recently got done reading, and I would recommend that to anybody, especially in light of the challenges we have today. In fact, even a Muslim scholar named Asma Hilali said, Brubaker has here given a helpful introduction to the body of his research on corrections in Quran manuscripts, which is now serving as a reference to a wider group of scholars studying the contours of the Quran's early transmission history. So here we have a book and a scholar that is going down in history in Islamic studies. And even Daniel B. Wallace gives it some praise.
Oh, I love that guy.
Yeah, he even says that it has long been popularly asserted that in contrast to that of the New Testament, for example, the Quran manuscript tradition is pristine and perfect, without ever a mark out of place, much less a variation involving whole words or phrases. Brubaker's fascinating study demonstrates that this is not quite so. So, that's a book I recommend there. All right.
Okay. Could you put that in the chat? Because I will forget that.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
All right, cool. Yeah.
So let's see.
So
I see we got Jesus as Lord. Said that he isn't going to deal with Discord. I mean, we'll just try working on it later on when you can, man. Because I tell you one thing, that's where a lot of us are going to be going to nowadays, and especially with the change of Hangout's going to have to shut down in October. That's where definitely place to be. All right, so let's see here. First, let's go over with the Intergalactic Star with their question, and I have to make sure that I just read something funny for the first time. Oh wait, hold up. Let me see if he's actually on board. Let me find him real quick. Okay, I won't say anything yet. Anyways, where was I? Oh yeah.
Is James White coming out?
You wish. Well, I'll say later. It depends on what he says. Intergalactic Star. Given in Revelations, I found this verse, and there shall be no night there, and they need no candle, neither the light of the sun. For the Lord God giveth them light, and they shall reign forever and ever. Revelation 22, verse 5. Alright, so let's see. Alright, so the guy said no. The guy was a Christian furry friend. He was one of the guys we had on the show a while back, so. But he's they're visiting with his wife's family, so they're gonna have to take care of things there. But if they do happen to watch this at some point, hi guys, we're crazy over here. So the concerning the passage says, where it describes this place, we will be at, if I'm correct, Jerusalem after the tribulation period. If so, how can something exist forever in a universe where it has the potential to collapse? This isn't meant to be against Christianity, as I am Christian myself. So, concerning the verse, and there shall be no night. Hold up. I keep forgetting. For some of the people that I have to, but when I have to go do this, I have to make sure that I pull this up so that way others can read. Oh man. Oof. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. I didn't even have too much to eat, honestly. The only thing I really had was, chips and ramen, and then pretty much destroyed it and probably dissolved it in acid at this point with the diluted what's that called, apple cider vinegar water, essentially. So it says, and there shall be no night there, and they need no candle, neither light of the sun, for the Lord giveth them light, and they shall reign forever and ever. So let's figure out what the place is. So first of all, we go over here, the tree of life, in the midst of the street of it, and of either side of the river was there the tree of life, which bare forth 12 manners of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. So the healing of the nations. And there shall be, and there shall be no more curse. But the throne of God and of the Lamb shall be in it, and his servants shall serve him. And they shall see his face, and his name shall be on their foreheads. So, as far as the location, I don't know if it is Jerusalem. It's been a while since I have got, because that was the last book of the Bible I read recently concerning that, since I tried reading the Bible for from cover to cover, and eventually got doing that. So that being said, and there shall be no night there. Sorry folks, try to focus here. Okay, where it describes the place we will be after the tribulation period. If so, how can something exist in a universe where it has the potential to collapse?
I think I know where it's at, but like I said, it's a conversation for another time.
Right. So, again, concerning the whole thing, I think Jerusalem is the one place that is able to then be restored, if that is what's going on. Because I believe there was somewhere, I think they talked about that one time, we're talking about the restoration of it. Or it could be talking about the new Jerusalem. Or it could even be, I don't know, I'd have to look more into this, in all honesty. Because I don't want to lie and deceive here. But knowing who this is, I'd be able to definitely talk private with this individual about this at some point. I just got to make sure I do a little bit more studying into this. So, thank you for that. Let's see here. All right, going to the live chat. All right. What is my take on the sons of God in Genesis chapter 6? So, there's actually a good thing about that, and to me, the sons of God that are referenced there are basically. In fact, let me just go pull them up on here so that way y'all can see it. What we're talking about, what it means by sons of God. So, and it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. So, these sons of God are in reference to angels. So the sons of God are pretty much these just angels, especially, particularly, almost of a certain high rank. But these, of course, broke from Yahweh and saw the daughters of men, that they were fair. They took them wives, of all which they chose. And so, one of the ways that helps us bring us back to this, for example, let's go back to Job. Or not go back to, since we haven't been there yet. So, now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. Or Hasatan, the accuser. Since I believe this Hasatan was part of the sons of God. So he's part of this divine council that we're seeing here, which is also referred to in Psalm 82. So these are simply angels that are in reference to in here. So that's why I definitely go with the fact that
May I throw in my 2 cents?
The sons of God are the fallen angels. Sure.
I went to another dead cell. I'm almost home, but I believe you said something about the fallen angels.
That's what it's in reference to concerning the Genesis 6 passage there. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I would like refer to them to, but I would go back in Enoch for that one, for more information for that.
No, I wouldn't necessarily do that concerning that. I mean, there's plenty of biblical texts that you can go to for that, and the only thing that Enoch can do is give us some context, but it's nothing we should base our doctrines off of.
I kind of might beg to differ a little bit.
Well, unless you can find me anywhere within the historicity of the BC period or even the New Testament period of the church recognizing this as a canon book that was inspired by God. In fact, it wasn't even written by Enoch himself.
Oh, I would have to say, I'd have to, because everyone always says that, but
well, that's the fact.
They always point to that.
That's the fact. Once we examine and look at when did the Book of Enoch originate, concerning how we know of it, we only have as most just some slight fragments. So at this point, we can only say that parts of the Book of Enoch are even an actual authentic piece, and that there's parts of the actual Book of Enoch that are actually just later interpolations meant to complete the text. In other words, meant to try to make its own source from a later period of time. And in fact, the parts of the book actually have an evolution. Let me see from what I'm looking at here. So, G.W. Bromley and E. Falbush in the Encyclopedia of Christianity mentions on the Book of Enoch that the older sections, mainly in the Book of the Watchers, of the text are estimated to date from 300 BC to 200 BC, and that the latest part, the Book of Parables, estimates around the time period of 100 BC, which is a similar way with how we see Second Esdras in the Apocrypha, because in Second Esdras in the Apocrypha, it consists of 3 sections, chapters 3 to 14 being the main thing, probably guest estimates from 1st century BC to 1st century AD. Then it was from a Jew. Then you have a Jewish Christian who writes for the, I believe he wrote the 15 to 16, but it was a Jewish Christian that wrote chapters 1 to 2, but it was a Christian Gentile that then later wrote in chapters 15 to 16. So it again just depends on how we come about this.
I think some of those things and stories were also passed down through oral traditions as well.
Right.
And of the prosecutions that happened beforehand, before Christianity became what it was. So I'm sorry. I literally just got home right now, so I'm trying to take off my shoes in this dark in my house.
Right.
So I was thinking, what could have been a possibility was that, obviously, you've heard about the Gnostics and all that was going on around at the time of all that. So I'm thinking maybe something along those lines of when that was going on, this is also what was going on, and then persecution happens, and then everyone's trying to regain reorder of this religion for control, and so that's how we everything came to say how we know it today.
Mm-hmm.
When we found them again, people wanted to see, well, why didn't we accept these for these and other things. And so, but yeah, mm-hmm. I don't want to ramble on.
Well, let me see if I can actually, is it nearby? Yeah, it's over there. There's a, concerning the Book of Enoch, I mean, there's plenty of resources that are out there that help us to go over, why certain books belong in the canon and why some don't. The only thing that I've looked into is so far about the Apocrypha. I have recently gotten a Book of Enoch paperback because I do plan to study it next.
Why don't you do? I'm sorry to interrupt. Why don't you just do I know that there's a YouTube guy where he reads most of the whole book, and it only takes about 3 hours.
Well, I mean, like I said, that's what I
to
plan
like
on doing.
sit down and listen
That's
to
what
it.
I'm planning on doing. I mean, I've been doing
Okay.
that with the Apocrypha so far.
All right. Yeah, I found a really good guy who goes over the Apocrypha, giving wisdom to the ages on YouTube. He has a nice playlist and he reads most of them all. That's where I went through the Apocrypha first. I actually went through the Apocrypha first, and Enoch was the one who sold me on Christianity, and then I went to the Bible to confirm my beliefs. So that's why I like it's odd for me, and that's why I'm thinking, because like it just that's what sold me into Christianity was the Book of Enoch.
Right. And to me, I don't see how that would be possible, considering what the Book of Enoch would entail and what it would essentially have in it. So, taking a look.
Sorry, it explains a lot about what happened pre-flood and all that. So, my kids are getting mad now because they're home now. My little girl is angry.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Here, okay, so here's an entry from, let's see, and this is in the pseudepigrapha entry from Clayton Harrop on First Enoch. It has been preserved in the Ethiopic language. It is a composite work of 5 sections, written at different times. The first section, chapters 1 through 36, tells how Enoch was taken up into heaven and shown that secrets. The sons of God of Genesis 6 were seen as angels. They committed sin, and the children born to them were evil giants. Emphasis is placed upon judgment and punishment. Even the realm of the dead is divided into separate places for the righteous and the wicked. The second section, chapters 37 to 71, is the most important for its relation to the Bible. It is the parables or similitudes. So there's the second one that we talked about earlier. These chapters refer to the Son of Man. Opinions differ as to how much references form part of the background to the New Testament teachings about Jesus as the Son of Man. There is uncertainty about the date of these sections and chapters. The rest of the book comes from between 200 and 100 BC, but the similitudes may have been written later, shortly before AD 100. Fragments of all the other sections have been found in the caves of Qumran, but no fragments of this section have been discovered yet. The third section, chapter 78 to 82, deals with the heavenly bodies. The author argues for a calendar based on the movement of the sun, in distinction to the standard Jewish calendar. The fourth section, chapters 83 to 90, contains 2 dream visions dealing with the flood and the history of Israel, from Adam to the Maccabean revolt. The final section gives religious instruction concerning the end times. The entire book is apocalyptic. So concerning the genre in this case of the passage, it is a pseudepigraphal, apocryphal book. And especially pseudepigraphal because it doesn't actually come from.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense for it to be an apocryphal book, considering that the flood was coming.
Right. But concerning some of the things, not everything that's in there is to be taken as something that is considered orthodox or sound, especially considering that the work wasn't fully completed until a much later period in time. It took several other different authors to take a look at it and make their own case and statement on it. And so that's why I say we got to be careful with this. And there's why there's plenty of people that point out why the book of Enoch is in Scripture. I actually preached on the book of the Epistle of Jude, which does comment on it at times. And even Dr. Michael Brown has done a thing where he's addressed about Enoch, while admitting that there's some things we can learn about Enoch. It's never considered canon. It's never considered to be something that we should derive our doctrine from, because it is not God-inspired scripture. Can learn some.
Well,
go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. What was the prior question before my interruption? It was
on the
place pertaining to Jerusalem, right?
No, I was talking about the sons of God in Genesis 6.
Oh, that was the one. I'm sorry. I was thinking back on the Jerusalem, but that has to go. That's also explained in Enoch as well.
Right. Okay. So.
To some degree, I'm sorry.
So let's see here.
Like I bits of it's in Enoch, the rest of it's in the Bible, from my understanding of it. That's in the question category of the Discord.
I see there's several questions in there. We're gonna get to them.
I see.
So
Oh,
let's see.
yeah. I was just driving. My bad. So yeah.
All right. Let's see. All right. No more of the live chat. So, all right, folks. Just letting y'all know, it is the 30 more minutes until we gotta shut down the show. So. Y'all got y'all's questions. Feel free to again to follow through the same format. Send your questions into the live chat. Join the live stream via Discord. Only those with the live stream warriors role will be able to enter. And then ask questions via our show questions only section on Discord. So there you go. And also say hello to Chibi version of me while he's still on the screen. Nope, now he's gone. All right. So let's get to the quickly the Discord questions. Is faith blind? And is it okay to have blind faith? No, faith isn't blind, and I think it's okay for some if they feel that that's what they have to have blind faith, especially depending on the circumstances. But I think we need to keep in mind that our faith doesn't always have to be blind, and that there's evidence for the faith that we have. So I think it's to be encouraged that we have faith that is backed by evidence. So I think that'd be important there. How old is the book of Genesis? Well, it depends on who you talk to. Because especially as you take it upon the perspective that I take, that Moses didn't author some of it, but he authored most of it, and that some things like slight anachronisms and all these other things that are put in come from scribes from a later period to keep the book up to date. And that others that then write something about Moses, or unless Moses could use the thing where he writes himself in the third person, which is again a common thing that some people did back then, at least especially the rulers and the narratives. It was very possible for that to be the case. But concerning how old it is, again, it depends on how you take it. Especially, I'll say that it's about as old as when Moses was around. We'll just say that. Can't give a good estimate of a date at the moment. So you can figure that out. You'll definitely be able to figure out how old the book of Genesis is.
All right. Well, I'm gonna bow out, but thank you for having me on.
No problem, man.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye, everybody.
Bye. All right. Last question from Intergalactic Star. What does the Bible say about those who are lowly in spirit? You have to define what that would mean. In fact, I'll actually tell her that later. But until then, James, do you have a question?
Trying to think of one. Let's see.
Don't be afraid if it's
pineapple go on pizza.
Oh, the answer is yes.
Yes, I agree.
Pineapple deserves to be on pizza. Like, if it's not on pizza, then what's wrong with you?
Yes. I think if we were to gather an ecumenical council, though, I think we might be considered heretics.
Yep, that would certainly be it.
Actually, here's a question. When was the biblical canon officially put together? I know that the whole thing about the Council of Nicaea isn't about the biblical canon. I know it's about Arianism,
right.
But when was it officially canonized?
Well, it depends on which one you're talking about, because when we are dealing with Old Testament canon and New Testament canon, these are different issues here.
I guess both.
Right. So the canonicity has sort of been something that has been kind of established in history. Like, there was really not much debate on the subject matter, and hence why there's a good thing nowadays where people are talking about, for example, and I did a video on the Apocrypha covering canonicity about it, and there are two theories on it. One suggests that there was this council called the Council of Jamnia, and Walter Kaiser, in his book The Old Testament Documents, says the following, quote, "It is true, of course, that Rabbi Johanan ben Zakkai, who escaped the siege of Jerusalem, is said to have asked the Roman general permission to reestablish his school at Jamnia. Nevertheless, despite all the long history of footnotes and arguments to the contrary, the thesis that Jamnia determined the shape and content of the Old Testament canon has three basic flaws. All deliberations by the council had no binding authority. Only the Book of Ecclesiastes and Song of Solomon were discussed, and even that discussion was basically about how to interpret these books, not whether they were canonical or not. And the books that were treated as canonical in their discussions did not differ from the list found in Josephus. But yeah, there's some people that like that don't affirm it, like me. But then you have those that believe, Jamnia is something that actually exists and that's something that happened because they discussed these books there. All it was really is just establishing, interpretation, and that in reality they already accepted the basically what we would call the Protestant Old Testament canon that rejects the Apocrypha. So they already had that. In fact, that's actually part of the thing that is said to, I believe it's in Romans 3:2, where it says that the Jews were entrusted with the oracles of God. So that's the canon there. There have been some churches that have been established to say, hey, we're going to have our canon. In fact, there's a good article on this from Keith Thompson of Exegetical Apologetics Ministries, and it's entitled, it's a good, interesting question to it, and I like that he puts it there, because you'll always hear this sometimes from Roman Catholics, and that is, did Roman Catholicism give Protestants the Bible? Which is usually in reference to some of the the Council of Hippo and the Third Council of Carthage, both from the 4th century is when these are, and that's where they discuss canonicity. And so that's where you would have the New Testament canon.
Okay.
But they would try to go there to say, hey, look, there's also the Apocrypha involved. But again, the church's duty was to decide the New Testament. In reality, when they decide to put in the Apocrypha in their canon, then they just they're going, extending where they need to be. They didn't need to do that since it was already established based on the basis of Romans 3:2. So.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's a very complicated subject.
Yeah. There was, my father-in-law mentioned something about Martin Luther taking out part of the Apocrypha because there was something about the Jews in Jerusalem and the Jews in Alexandria. I can't remember what it was exactly, but it was something to do.
First of all, let me ask: is he Catholic?
Yes, he's Catholic, but he's not your traditional Catholic. He's somebody who's more of I don't know. He doesn't care about what the Pope says.
Okay, so that's
at
least he's on a right start. But concerning that,
and he believes in you are saved through faith.
Well, that's good. He would be considered anathema by the Catholics then. But concerning that, David A. De Silva, in introducing the Apocrypha, specifically the 2nd edition, said, and because here's the thing, a lot of people think that Martin Luther just took it out of the Bible. Ask him, has he ever read Martin Luther's Bible?
Oh, I'm sure he has. He has I don't know how many books on his shelf. He's got maybe 300. He's very well studied.
Because if he was able to do so, he would know that the Apocrypha is in Martin Luther's translation of the Bible.
Okay. I'll ask him about it.
Because here's what David A. De Silva notes, quote, and this is on page 27 of the book. Martin Luther's treatment of these books is even more positive. Most notably, he took the pains to translate them and publish them into his German Bible. His innovation was to move the disputed books, along with the disputed additions to Daniel, to a section between the Testaments. His verdict on them, found in his preface on the Apocrypha, echoes Jerome. These are books that, though not esteemed like the Holy Scriptures, are still both useful and good to read. He positively encourages the reading of several of these books. In his preface to the Wisdom of Solomon, he writes, "There are many good things in it, and it well worth reading." He goes on to say, "This book is a good exposition and example of the first commandment," to which he finishes saying, "And that is the main reason why this book is to be read, so that one may learn to fear and trust God, so that he may help us by his grace.
Okay, that's interesting.
Like, not a lot of people knew that. In fact, I showed this to Max Colby from Red Pill Religion, and he was shocked. He was like, I didn't think this was actually possible. I didn't know he actually said this. I'm like, well, he said it.
Now send me a quick link on it, and let me check it out.
Yeah, sure thing, man.
Oh, and as well, I think my father-in-law might be Augustinian in the way he sees things, because he did write a book on predestination, from Augustine all the way up to the time of, I think, Martin Luther. I haven't read it, but it seemed interesting.
Yeah, I might have to check some of the stuff out at some point. But hold up, dang it, I can't get this X out. All right, there we go. All right, so Intergalactic Star says, okay, because I tried to ask what is meant by lowly spirit, said having a humble heart which is ready to serve the Lord. Hence the term lowly. They humble themselves. Being prideful is putting yourself high, so the opposite would be the lowly in spirit or humble. But notice how I'm not saying putting yourself down, as I see differently than being humble. Alright, so concerning those who are humble, I mean, I think those are people that usually receive, blessings at that point. So let me see here about in fact, there is actually a passage, I'm trying to make sure. Alright, right there, Matthew chapter 23. Because I know there definitely is one where Jesus talks about those who humble themselves. So let's see. Oh yeah, right here. So let me pull it up here on the Bible software. So let's just start at verse 10 to get to this. Neither be ye called masters, for one is your master, even Christ. But he that is greatest among you shall be your servant, and whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, which the word there, abased, is to humiliate, to depress. And he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. And exalted, by the way, in case some people don't know, is to elevate. So there is a praise concerning those who humble themselves. And 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 6. We go there. Let's go to verse 5. Likewise, ye younger, submit yourselves unto the elder. Yea, all of you be subject one to another, and be clothed with humility. For God resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. So right here, we have an Old Testament reference here. Where does this go to? For God resisteth the proud. This is in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 34. Surely he scorneth the scorners, but he giveth grace unto the lowly. Verse 6. Humble yourselves therefore under the mighty God of God, or the mighty hand of God, that he might exalt you in due time, casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. So it is a command at this point too, and that there is grace, there is reward for doing this act of humbleness. Then Ephesians chapter 4. So go to Apostle Paul. Ephesians chapter 4. I therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you that you walk worthy of the vocation with which ye are called, with all lowliness and meekness, with long suffering, forbearing one another in love. So, lowliness, meekness. Number 3, endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. There is one body and one Spirit, even as ye are called in one hope of your calling. So right here, we have our faith, we have our fruits of the Spirit, we have to practice this. So, that's just a few of the passages that talk about humbleness, and I think that just shows it's a command, it's something we are called to do. It is also something that when we do it, we get these benefits, these rewards in heaven, and especially just on earth in terms of a common grace, because it says grace is sent to the humble. So, yep. Thus, thank you for your question there, Intergalactic Star. And let's see. How much people in the live chat? Oh yeah. I forgot. I have to put this back up. So, we are at this point. Oh, I thought I saw something. I see someone talking about things. Anyways. I don't know, man. We've about getting some dead space and some dead air. Not a lot of people have been coming in lately.
I mean, I'd talk, but it's your show, and I don't want to feel like I'm interrupting.
Well, I'm just trying to find out what to do. I got because we got technically about 18 minutes left before we gotta go.
Let's see here. Trying to think of an interesting question. Any good lecture series that you listen to, or do you prefer to learn things on your own?
I occasionally listen to lecture series. I just haven't listened to one in a long time. There is a guy, and I posted this particular lecture on, at least from part of it, on my channel, concerning making the case against the documentary hypothesis and making the case for Mosaic authorship. There's this guy named Joe Sprinkle, and I found out that he's actually in the, as a matter of fact, let me get it out real quick. Holman Illustrated Bible Dictionary has access to a variety of scholars that decide to contribute to it. So let me see here. Going to contributions. Okay, right there. So Joe Sprinkle. So Sprinkle. So an S. Really? So he's not even here.
Let me know if I'm a little noisy.
Slightly, but it's nothing new for me. Alright, so let me just type him up. Joe Sprinkle, Old Testament. Alright, right there. So he has a LinkedIn. He's a okay. I need to have access to like his actual thing. So he's in Nebraska Christian College. Let me see here. I'm trying to see if I can find him so that way I can at least give a bit of his bio. But I can't see anything. Alright. Alright, let's see. Maybe if I can click on this, it'll take me there. Okay, Crossroads College. Okay, yeah, now I'm here because I had to zoom in like crazy to get here. Okay, so Joe Sprinkle, been a professor of Old Testament about 2003. Got his Masters of Divinity from Trinity Evangelical Divinity School. His Masters of Philosophy, I believe, or MPHIL, from Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion. And which is where he also got his PhD in Hebrew Studies. So he's a professor of Old Testament. And one of his teachers, from what I found out, was actually Gleason Archer. So he's had some interesting professors over his period of time. And so all you gotta do is just type in Joe Sprinkle on YouTube, and he pretty much explains that his videos are pretty much on the basis of he will do like online courses for some people, and he takes his courses and then just throws them in for a lecture. One of the recent things that he's done that's pretty big, he's taken this one book on learning Hebrew by I forget who the guy was, but he's done, especially in divisions of like letters like A and B, done a 41 or 42, or if you want to times that by 2 at that point, so like I guess 82 lessons of learning the biblical Hebrew. So, and he's got Christian doctrine of heaven and hell, doctrine of the spiritual gifts, and what's good is that he tries to do so in a perspective of trying to start with the idea of, okay, so if, for example, like the documentary Hypothesis, he tries to do a steel man and argue for the documentary Hypothesis, and then he goes to a criticism of it. He basically tries to make sure that people know how to deal with certain things, and he covers a lot of interesting grounds, but his channel isn't well known. That's what's interesting, is that he only has like 35 subscribers, and I'm among those subscribers.
So I know I've been asking for a lot of links.
Yeah, that's what you're gonna have to remind me after this for specifically on what the links. And he's also, actually, now I do remember where I found it. Wasn't in the dictionary. It was, he has written 2 books. One is called I'm trying to think if it's in the it's in a commentary series that's been popular. The Teach the Text commentary series. He's written a commentary on Leviticus and Numbers. And then there's The Law and Its Relevance, which is another book he wrote. So he's written 2 books as well. But
sounds like Andy Stanley might need that.
I know, right? So, but those are the but those would be that's one guy I would recommend people, especially concerning Old Testament issues, because he definitely helps out with dealing with, especially people in light of Old Testament criticism, you know, like source criticism and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, he's definitely a guy I'd recommend. In fact, he's even done a canon of the Old Testament series, which after seeing this now, I'm going to make that the next one of my list. So yeah, all right.
Oh, cool.
So that being said, that would be the alarm for my medicine, and that was a copyright song. All right, so
I think you'll be good.
yeah, I don't know. I think this will probably be a good place to cut it off for the night, because I mean, I think we've gotten plenty of stuff out there, and we've gone. What in the world?
I mean, I could fill in that airspace for you while you go get your medicine.
Well, I mean, we're about to have to cut off anyways. So, I mean, I think it'd be a good time, anyways, to, other than, unless you got like a last word you'd like to say, that'd be like, you know, peace out, homies, or don't do drugs, kids, or anything like that. You got any advice for all the people out there?
You might want to avoid traps. All I will say.
Well, he is just, he's absolutely correct on that one. Definitely avoid the traps.
Looks like one thing, talks like one thing, but it's something completely different.
Absolutely. All right, folks.
You go into a Mexican restaurant, you want a taco, but they give you a hot dog for some reason.
And they give you a hot dog. All right, so
Sorry, go
thank
ahead.
you for that, man, and it was nice talking to you. All right, so for those of y'all that are still tuning in, I'm surprised most of y'all have managed to stay with us this long. Oh yeah, let me pull out the outro music so that way we get that going. Oh, there we go, got it a bit. All right, so thank y'all for tuning in, and we hope to see y'all next time. I'm gonna just disconnect from the call, that way I can make sure to keep the, or no, James is still, he's got his mute, so this will be perfect. Just gotta make sure that stay muted until I say we go off here. But for those of y'all that have been tuning in, thank y'all for tuning in on this wonderful night and this wonderful time. I'm about to go do a little bit more study and find out what else I need to do with my life. But until then, y'all listen to this the rest of this awesome outro music as we carry out. But actually, yeah, I'm serious. Do not talk until I say we're officially off air. So until then, here y'all go, folks. Rock on. Have a good night.